Always enjoy the discussion and appreciate the conversation with Steve Hellwagon. You can join him at 247 Sports Bucknuts. He's senior Big Ten writer there at 247 Sports. Getting a number of questions in the live chat about the defense, very generically, just how is the defense going to be better? I'm going to narrow it down just a little bit more. Of course, Steve, you can take it in any direction in addressing that side of the football. But I really think, despite the issues that we saw in the secondary, that it's the linebacking core that was probably the biggest disappointment and most underachieving unit on this team, not just last season, but the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think last year in particular, the first half of the season was not good. I think by the end of the year, Malik Harrison at one of the outside linebacker spots was playing at a pretty high level. You had Tuff Borland in the middle and Pete Werner at the other outside linebacker spot. Again, I am not 100% sure how they're going to line up. I know that what they've talked about is taking one of the outside linebackers, presumably the Werner spot, off the field, and in some sets replacing them with a hybrid safety and linebacker that they are calling the Bullet. And this could be Brendan White. If they do that, it would allow perhaps Jordan Fuller and Josh Proctor, who's a promising sophomore, to get a chance to play the safety positions. Brendan White play that hybrid linebacker and safety spot. And I think he's well suited for that because last year we saw he was able to provide great run support, even get into the backfield at times, and then also play good pass coverage as well. Another thing on their defense that Jeff Hafley, the new coordinator, talked about today was maybe they won't play a man-to-man coverage on every down and press man coverage. What they may do is line up and give you the appearance that that's what they're in, but bail out at the last second and play a little bit more zone coverages. And I think that's important from the standpoint of keeping the field covered side to side. That was an issue for Ohio State. If they would overload on one side or the other, teams took advantage of it and ran to the backside or through to the backside for big, big plays. I mean, I don't know how many 85-yard plays they gave up, but it was about 5 too many, I think, or something along those lines. So at any rate, it sounds to me like, what's been a staple at Ohio State with heavy dependency on press man coverage for years is going to be tempered at least a little bit. I'm not going to tell you they're going to be an all-zone team. Can't say they're going to be an all-man team, but they are going to be a team that disguises what they do and is multiple in terms of a blitz package and will be able, it sounds to me, to be more effective defensively just because they're going to take better advantage perhaps of their personnel and put another guy on the field as you could call it a nickel back, but it is a quasi linebacker type position. And I think I'm interested to see how these wrinkles and all these different adjustments will play out in the fall. If this is something that Jeff Hafley and Greg Madison, the two coordinators on defense, will stick with. I think that it is going to be experimentation, both with personnel and scheme, the first half of the season, until everybody really gets to know what they're doing and who can do what. That's important. I think what they talked about this spring was simplifying the defense and the scheme so that the guys could just run and play fast, and they can make some personnel decisions based on who flourished within that type of a defense. So I think it's exciting that after what was the worst defensive season that they've had in many years, even though it was just a one-loss season, they gave up 30 points probably 5 times or something like that. I think that they are going to work through the situation and come back with a scheme that really fits what the personnel they have.
We talk Ohio State football with Steve Hellwagon on a regular basis. You can join him and the rest of the crew there at 247 Sports. Just look up bucknuts.com. Steve, the last thing I'll hit you with is it struck me when you were talking about the accomplishments of last year and the summary being 13-1 Big Ten champions, Rose Bowl champions, despite the defensive shortcomings.
Number 3 in the final poll.
Number 3 in the final poll. They rose above the likes of Oklahoma and Notre Dame, who made the playoffs, much like they were surpassed in 2016 by a couple teams that missed the playoffs after better showings in the postseason. But you made that key comment about then we'll see. So be it. If they have another one-loss season, we'll see, because it's not an objective process, it's a subjective process. And wouldn't it be ironic that maybe the key to Ohio State's season from a score standpoint would be, instead of coming home with their heads between their legs against Purdue or Iowa, losing 55-17 or 55-24 or 49-20. Instead, maybe it's a loss at Iowa or Nebraska by just 3 or 6 points that doesn't look so bad, that doesn't cost them.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point. And I think if you improve on defense and can be anywhere close to where you're on offense, that is a very lethal combination. I think that would put them potentially as a top 10 or top 5 team, and would give them probably a better chance to make the case for the playoff. I think when you're giving up the number of points, the number of yards that Ohio State was giving up, I mean, had their defense been any better than Oklahoma's, which they were almost on par with each other with how bad they were, perhaps you could have made a better case, at least in terms of football, that Ohio State could have been in the playoff. But they were exposed early and often last season by different teams, and I think they were in some tough games and pulled out some tough games at Penn State, down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and found a way to pull it out. So I just think that what you have is a mixture of veteran guys who've been there. Now, some of them have played on 2 Big Ten championship teams and are dying to get the third one. A team that's got this winning streak against Michigan and wants to keep that going. And that game could be a very determining factor, obviously, in winning the Eastern Division if they're the top 2 teams in the division. And I just see a program, particularly with Ryan Day as the head coach, that this is not Urban Meyer's program anymore. It's now on the coaching staff that he has hired. It's on the players that he is bringing in, Justin Fields, as well as the incoming freshmen, plus guys he's recruited the last few years to come to Ohio State. The corner has kind of been turned in some regard, that they can't live off the accomplishments of the past. They have to go out and show that this new regime is all it's cracked up to be. So I think there's a lot at play here for Ohio State in 2019 in terms of maintaining their position at the top of the Big Ten and pushing whatever it may be, whatever buttons need to be pushed to get back into the playoff, because that's where everybody is burning to be right now in college football. And Ohio State is one of the 10 or 12 teams every year who starts a season with a very good chance to be in the playoff if all the things align in a proper way and everything works out across the board. So I think it's an exciting year. So much is new, and I think that there's enough experience there yet to say we know the way to get this done. We just have to do it.
And it's ironic to make that comparison between Ohio State and Oklahoma and take it away from the aspect that the 2 teams could control. And maybe the difference was that Oklahoma got to avenge its loss against Texas. Had Iowa not lost a series of like 3-point games, Iowa was extremely close to being a 1-loss team. They lost barely in the last few seconds against Purdue and Wisconsin and Penn State, or they show up in the Big Ten championship game, and Ohio State gets the same opportunity that Oklahoma got, and that's to avenge its loss. But it was not to be. All right.
Yeah, it's just the way it all works out, and certainly you can only play the teams on your schedule. Ohio State's 3 crossovers are all very good teams this year from the West. Northwestern won the division. Wisconsin's always picked to win the division and usually does. And then Nebraska is a team, I think they only won 4 games last year for Scott Frost, but they're going to win probably double that this year. I would think 8 or 9 as he kind of gets that program back on solid ground. So, and honestly, they were in 7 or 8 games last year that they could have won. So,
absolutely,
including the Ohio State game was only a 5-point difference, I think, in Columbus. So the Buckeyes are going out to Nebraska. They've dominated Nebraska the last 3 or 4 times that the teams have played, and you know that Frost would love nothing more than to beat Ohio State. But again, everything in the Big Ten is predicated within your division. I mean, all the games count as one game, but the head-to-heads are where tiebreakers come into play. And Ohio State certainly wants to take care of business within the Eastern Division with Penn State, Michigan every year.
Steve, I can't thank you enough for coming on here on a regular basis, supporting the channel, and giving us some great analysis on Ohio State football.
It's been great, Mark. Whenever we want to do it again, their spring game coming up on April the 13th at noon on Big Ten Network, noon Eastern time. And again, I'm glad I could put a lot of focus now on football for the next couple of weeks after being out of town the last few weeks on basketball coverage, and can really sink my teeth in and see where things are really headed with this team in 2019.
Excellent, Steve. Thank you so much. We'll see you
All
soon.
right. Take care.